So today we're going to be talking about being an empath. And as I was meditating this morning about this topic, I realized I needed to share one of my biggest, lessons or slaps in the face when it came to being an empath. I looked it up online. I'm like, how do you even define being an empath? Right? You know, you're an empath because you're an empath and you feel everything. And when I talk about those with Vata dosha, all Vata doshas are like, well, I'm an empath. And I was trying to think of like what distinguishes one from the other, and it doesn't really matter. But the way I would define being an empath is that not only do we feel a lot, maybe a lot of emotion, but we're feeling the undercurrent of spiritual or energetic or other people's emotions, right? We can feel the subtext, the energetic subtext of what's going on beyond what's being said and done physically. Does that make sense? And I think this, for me, and I'm just going to talk about me because I can't say I'm an expert on being an empath, but I think my experience and my learning has really, it's something that I've studied. But for me, it made me feel crazy most of my life when what someone did and said didn't line up with what I was feeling. And it confused me because I have Vata in my constitution. And Vata constitution always thinks that we're wrong or we're bad or we've done something bad or we've said something bad. So for me personally, being an empath and feeling all of that subtext combined with Vata dosha's self-doubt, because Vata dosha has a lot of self-doubt. And so we're always like looking at ourselves, made things very, very confusing for me, very confusing. There's someone who came into my life and they came into my life through marriage. And I had such turmoil about this person. And I thought I was a mean person. I thought I was terrible. I couldn't figure out what my resistance was to that person. But as time went by and stuff was revealed, I realized that I felt the inconsistency of what that person was showing. And it took 10 years for things to get revealed. And not so that I could be right, or not so that I could be like, I knew, but just so I could understand, oh, I was feeling the difference between those two things. So I think when we're early in our process of awakening, we don't know, we can't codify, we can't articulate all of these unseen things. And we want to be careful that we're not projecting and making up stuff. And then what do we do with that stuff, right? That was probably my early empath confusion. And then I have to say it was just a few years ago that I was in a healer's forum, I guess you could say. Like, this person was at the front of the room and they are a psychic, and there were all these people gathered to see this person. And I was very ill with Bartonella infection, which had spread to my brain. And so I was really under construction and in a very vulnerable place. Mentally, emotionally, energetically, spiritually, I just felt like I needed to be in a cocoon, but I had heard so much about this person, so I went. So I went and I asked a question about what it is to be energetically sensitive or protecting your energy field, because I felt really vulnerable. And this person, and I will tell you, I don't get embarrassed very easily, and I don't have many blind spots about myself because I'm the one looking at my shadow and looking at the deepest, darkest stuff. So it's really hard for me to be shocked or embarrassed in that way because I'm pretty in touch with my shadow. And so he reads me And he's like, well, you're like, you could go into a grocery store and you come out and you don't even know where your car is. And what he was saying was like, if I go into someone's energy field, I get lost in their field such that I can't get back into myself. And the way he said it with the ego, like we have to, as teachers and healers, keep our ego so in check, because our intuitive or psychic nature can come across as abuse if it's done with any touch of ego. And so in that moment, I felt horrified that he kind of made a joke about how empathic I was. And it wasn't my ego. It was just like, oh, that felt really crappy. The whole room laughed. But from that experience, I got two very important lessons, because I never throw out the baby with the bathwater. I'm like, there's a seed or a lesson in this experience. And then there was another seed. The first seed is that he was right. I was energetically getting so lost in other people's energies, not because I was around them, but because when someone was upset at me, I could feel it. Or when someone was judging me, I could feel it. Or when someone was in some way talking out of integrity or upset because of something I did, I could feel it. And I started from that point on realizing that my issue or my resistance with this person could possibly be that I could feel what kind of energetic hooks were coming into my field, intentionally or unintentionally. Because at that point, I was becoming a public figure. And when you come into a space where you're talking publicly to large groups, people have thoughts. They go home, they think about the thing you say, they make you right or wrong. And I was starting to feel all of that. And I didn't even realize it. And so he jerked me into that reality. And for that, I am so grateful. And the other thing I learned in that experience was that was the very last time I was ever going to visit anyone else to tell me my truths. I was like, okay, I'm done looking to someone else to tell me who I am or to reflect to me what I am. And what it gave me is an opportunity that someone that I might have thought, I mean, I've never had near-death experiences. And this is not Kaya. I just want to be very clear, because I then found Kaya, and Kaya is so pure, and she doesn't psychically read or tell me my truth. And she does a really beautiful job of clearing out my energy field every 2 weeks. And so in that moment, I realized I'm never going to go to a person who tries to tell me what's going on for me. I will only work with people who are pure and clean and ask me questions and hold my light and shine that back to me. Does that make sense? And what it informed me, because I do trauma work with people, is to get even tighter. See, in my work with people, I don't tell them their truths. Our work, level 1, 2, and 3 of my work, is to tease people's egos and minds and personalities out of their healing work, and to pose questions to help someone get in touch with their own truths. That's what my work is in the world. It's not to be a psychic. Even if I am getting a psychic hit, my work with an individual is to use that hit as a questioning for my client, to ask them, oh, what is that? And so those of you who are healers or have psychic abilities or are an empath, our empathness, our reads on things and people. But what we do with being an empath and a psychic, if that's how you identify yourself, what we do with that has such great responsibility, profound responsibility. And sometimes it can be really easy to get sloppy in that psychic or empathic responsibility. People think empaths are psychics, but really we just feel everything that's going on. I can feel someone's trauma pattern, which is how I can read it. But I won't say, well, your problem is this, and you went this, and you went, you'll never hear me say that. Well, I wonder if there's this. Do you think there's that? Why? Because we never want to violate someone's free will when we're working with them, ever. So based on this experience, what I realized is I needed to tighten up my ship. And when I realized really in that moment, what he was very gifted, and he did give me a mirror, even though I didn't like how he delivered it. It didn't feel kind. He gave me a mirror, and I was able to take away that nugget. And the nugget was, know what's going on in your field, Kim. Know what's yours and know what is not yours. Oh, I feel resistance to that person. Okay, Kim, do you love that person? Yes, I love that person. Do you have any beef with that person? No, I don't have any beef with that person. Then it's not yours. And it's not yours to figure out. So violet flame the frick out of that person to transmute the interference. And this is where we're going to go into a teaching on interference, and we may not meditate today. But to transmute the interference. So I violet flame, transmute the interference, and then I go into forgiveness work. Why? It's not my energy. I was just picking up their energy. They're the ones that are probably judging me. Because karmically, something energetically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, either known or unknown, something I put out into the world attracted that to me. 100% responsibility for everything I am karmically attracting. I could have cut their head off last lifetime. Who knows what I did? I don't know what I did last lifetime. I could have been an ass, a complete ass. And that person might just be showing up, energetically reverberating that back to me. It's very possible, or even early lifetime. So from that, I work forgiveness to clear whatever interference that I might have started or created. Because remember, and I'm not going to go, I'll teach on this another time. There is the law of the circle. So if you look at the law of karma as the law of the circle, then I get energy every day. It's stamped with this lotus flower of my unique frequency. And I send energy out into the world, into the circle. And it collects more energy like that until it returns karmically, and then it hits me upside the head and I feel like a victim. I'm not a victim. I probably put that energy out before it got slapped in my head. The problem is there's time and space between stimulus and response, or between cause and effect. So it's hard to start to link up. What causes did I put out there? What energies did I put out there for this to come back? I don't know. It could have been 2 lifetimes ago, 10 lifetimes ago. Either way, it was my lotus flower stamp that was on that original energy. And karmically, it's my responsibility to transmute it. So as an empath, for me personally, the biggest work that has set me free is by really knowing what hooks. So I think of like a fishing line with a hook at the end. And we're all doing this with each other, right? If I have a negative thought about you, I am literally sending a fishing line into your field and just tugging at your energy field. That's how we create karma. And there are other people who have put little fishing lines into my field and are tugging. And as an empath, we can feel that. Other people may be oblivious to it, but if you're energetic or spiritually sensitive, you might be feeling that. So we transmute it with the violet flame, we transmute it with forgiveness. Now, is that the only thing that we might be feeling? No. We might be feeling the astrological shifts in the washer machine that's going on that has nothing to do with us. We might be feeling the collective during COVID, during the elections, during the weather that's coming down the pike and everybody getting scared. But still the same. Is this mine? And still the same, the violet flame and forgiveness on behalf of all of humanity can still transmute that. You see, we don't realize that we have such immense spiritual power to transmute whatever we're feeling. Maybe we're just one of those like towers of feeling that are there on this planet to transmute interference. But the thing is that we don't need to figure it out. We don't need to know specifically why is that happening or who's doing this or what did I do or let me go into my Akashic records. I don't need to do any of that anymore. I don't need to do past life journeys or anything. Why? Because I chalk it up to interference and say, oh, wow, whew, some interference. I can see it with 3 daughters. So I found the violet flame, as you probably know, because I started doing Reiki on people in my backyard. And every day that I would do on Thursdays, Reiki in my backyard, my 3 daughters were a mess and like chewing each other's heads off that night. And I was like, what the heck is happening? Interference. So I think of energetic interference this way. My husband comes home from work. He's in a grumpy mood. He's got gum on his shoe. He comes in, he's got a little cloud attached. Why? Because he went into fear or frustration or sadness or something. Energetically, he resonated with some little fear blob, little speck of energy, or a little gum on his shoe. And when he came home, he got the gum all over the floor, all over my field or my daughter's field. This is usually me, by the way, not my husband, right? So we call that interference. It's just a little fear blob. It could be lineage karma. It could be he's in a pain body, which we're going to talk about next month. It could be that something's hanging out in his field. I can go into lots of explanations. I've done a ton of research of what is this interference. It could be that he's having a Saturn return or whatever the hell. Venus is in retrograde for him in his field. Either way, my ego will plug right into that interference. And that interference will work on me in the way that I'm weak. My feeling of safety or my feeling of connection, his feeling of powerlessness. And it will hit everybody in my family in their own on their own weak chakra or their own tiny mad idea. So what do? First of all, it's important to know how I got hooked into the interference that came into the house. And then I need to know that interference, that thought, that feeling, it's not me and it's not him. He is a sacred being of sacred divine light. And I am a being in my heart of divine light. And this is interference that's playing out between us. So I have to see that. And to see that, I have to go into a state of witness or awareness to be like, oh, I just got sucked in to interference. That's really not true because it's all fear and it's a big storyline that's actually not happening in this moment. Let me violet flame it. And if you don't know what violet flame is, look at an earlier video. Let me transmute this. Let me regulate myself. Let me remember who I am. Did you read the Conversation with God books from Neil Donald Walsh? We need to remember who we are. I'm not the lunatic. I'm not the angry wife. I am divine, and so is he. I am in my heart. So I almost have to pull myself straight back into my spine, straight back into the heart, into the love that I am, so I can unplug where I plugged into the interference. Now, if you have a pattern of self-punishment, or I'm bad, or I'm wrong, or he's bad and he's wrong, then you'll merge right into the interference and you'll get stuck there. But if you can come back to the divinity that we are, I am not that, and I am not that, and I am not my anger, and I am not my fear, and I am not the unworthiness. If you can come back into that reality, that is how we unplug from the interference to know, who am I here? What am I here? So empath will feel the interference. We don't have to psychoanalyze what it is. We need two tools, the violet flame and the practice of forgiveness. So we can transmute whatever it is that came into our field and go on our merry way. So let's just do a quick 5 to 10 minute practice right now, because I'm going to show you what happens if I'm in the middle of the day and a little beep, 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 beep happens in my house. What do? You can do this on the fly. You don't have to go take a time out for 35 minutes and do a guided meditation. You can do it on the fly. This is spiritual work in action. So let's see if I can compact this into a 5-minute practice for you. Close your eyes. Come into your breath. Breathe into your upper belly. So the first thing I would need to do is regulate my nervous system so I'm not in fight or flight, right? Breathe into your upper belly so you can feel yourself massage that vagus nerve, sending the slow exhale out. Good, breathing into your upper belly. Slow exhale through the mouth. The long exhale is going to relax the nervous system, usually by 5 breaths. I'm good. Another deep breath into your upper belly. Exhale slowly. Last breath into your belly. Exhale. Your breath is your gateway to unplug from interference. It gets you back into your body, regulates your nervous system, tells you you're safe. There's nothing to be afraid of. Right there. 5 breaths. And then, if you will, breathe into your heart. Connecting with your sacred heart space, command the violet consuming flame into that relationship. So as you activate it within yourself, by just thinking about the violet flame in your heart, good, exhale, push it into your body. Next breath. Breathing into the violet flame in your heart. Exhale it into your energy field and just push it out into that field around you, sealing up the bubble, transmuting like a mosquito zapper, anything that might have gotten into your field. Sealing off your field, reclaiming your sovereignty. I am the violet consuming flame in action. I am the violet consuming flame in action here and now. Good. And now that you have sovereignty of your field, you can picture the other person in that same violet flame bubble. I like to imagine myself sending violet flame bombs into their field to clear out whatever's there and whatever's between us. If you can see the violet flame, great. If not, just intend it into their field. bringing in the transmuting power of divine love, divine power, divine wisdom. The violet flame works in win-win-win situations, so it's for the good of everyone. So just hold the highest good for this relationship, these people, this organization. And then I'll say this prayer, which I have memorized. I am my I am presence. Invoking the violet consuming flame to transmute the cause, core, effect, memory, and record throughout all time frames and dimensions. That I ever expressed through any thought, word, action, feeling that created discord, both known and unknown. So just feel the violet flame working, transmuting every thought, feeling, word, action that you've ever expressed in any time frame or dimension, both known or unknown, that created discord. And feel the violet flame working on the seeds of this experience with this other person. And as you drop into that, just start the Ho'oponopono. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Please forgive me, please forgive me, please forgive me. Thank you for forgiving and releasing me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you, I love you, I love you. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Please forgive me, please forgive me, please forgive me. I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you. Thank you for forgiving and releasing me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you, I love you, I love you. And you can seal that by saying, and so it is done. And so we are clear. And so the highest good now has the space to come in between you and me. And then you expect the clearing. You anticipate that it will be cleared and something will shift. And then afterwards, after it does shift, because it always does when you come with this amount of intent and heart, you have to write down the miracles and the shifts so that your ego mind can gather the data and not dispute when it's time to do a clearing. So then after that, even if you feel things, you can come back and work your own reactions, your own emotions, your own vibrations around what came up for you. For example, with that person that I talked about that came into my life, that person just made me have to face my, I'm not good enough, I'm not right enough. And that was my work. So there was something outside of me that triggered that, but I still had to do my own work around my own unworthiness. And that's what that person reflected to me. And that's what that psychic had reflected to me. No experience is a good or a bad experience. Anytime we get the contrast, we can take it inward and get our lessons. So will I still meet with healers and psychics? Of course I will. I'm in that field, but I'll never go there waiting for someone to fix me or tell me my truth. And that was the lesson that I needed to process within myself. Was that person, was he bad or wrong? No. He was placed perfectly in my path to get the lesson when I was most vulnerable. So we never have to see life through duality, but we can still get our lessons and do our work through it. So thank you for showing up today and doing that short practice and being with me for this beautiful discussion that I don't think is talked about enough. And I hope that you can take this into your own introspections and meditations to be able to take your own experience even deeper. Much love to each and every one of you. Blessings, you guys.